Okay, so I'm already streaming to Twitch, so it couldn't restream to Twitch. But we should be live on Twitter now. Let's see. Um, okay, so, this is the one I added, right? I don't know if I'm. Let's see, I should be able to go to. Okay. Yes, I have my chip there. Don't know if I'm live on YouTube or on Twitter right now, because I can't actually see anything. Okay, cool. Well, let's see here. So now that I at least have some sort of stream live, um, let's see. Okay, where is that? Should go to me, and it does. Cool. Drop a link on Twitter. Let's see. Which deck do I want to start with? Um, let's do this one. Get it loaded here. All right. So, Internet 2.0 is the human-centric internet. And the key problem here is that we scaled networks and we forgot people. Um, it's really easy to connect a whole bunch of different people and let them communicate. But when we actually have to start factoring in what happens to the people who use our networks, things get a little trickier. Um, and we've forgotten about that in terms of the internet. So let's go ahead and bring that back. And so the internet was meant to be local, known users, shared context, physical trust. It started off as an experiment in a lab, and then we went, cool, let's just connect it to everybody and then see what happens. Um, and that wasn't great. because basically the economy can't support tech scale. And so what happens is tech can expand infinitely because it's digital. It doesn't take up physical space. It doesn't have the same physical limitations. Now, it does have different limitations, and we'll talk about that later, specifically related to the amount of complexity that it can support. But basically, we have tech expanding exponentially and unconstrained, and human systems didn't. They just kind of broke. And so we've been financing the present by borrowing from the future. And frankly, it's not a future that everybody gets access to. And I'm kind of tired of that. And so I grew up in the wrong internet, right? I was connected to everybody, but like I didn't have a spot of my own. I'm unrooted, right? And I'm trying to make these predictions about how the internet is going based on what I'm seeing. And there's just so much noise. I end up seeming like I'm schizophrenic because I'm picking up on patterns that exist. And in typical situations, the patterns I've seen would be right. But because of the nature of change inside of this crazy internet system we've created, basically nothing is predictable because everybody has to develop their own systems instead of doing what is kind of the natural relationship focused uh, things. And so what we did is we compressed human time into machine time. And so, machines got better and better, more precise. And humans have no idea what the fuck is going on because we lost meaning, right? Optimization ate meaning. People are doing work, but not knowing what that work is about. And one of the things that I've realized is we talk a lot about knowledge work, and knowledge work is not a thing. Consciousness work is. And so basically, groups of people hold shared consciousness over a problem state and use that shared consciousness in conjunction with the technology at their disposal in order to solve human problems. And what we've got these systems that are driven by money, basically pulling us into speeds that are not human sustainable. And it's fine when you're just burning people out in the system and replacing them with the next one up. But we've gotten to a point where the economy just isn't stable. We have all these companies firing people and like replacing them with AI only to come back and say, actually, need you to come back to work because it turns out all these AI promises we got are all bullshit. And we have this economy that's just built on a throne of lies because there is no way to actually achieve the future state that they're raising shit tons of money for. And so we're headed toward this huge crash because it's just not real. And so the internet has no human memory. Like there's no stable identity. Nobody knows where anything came from. Nobody's accountable. There's only behavior that we're trying to understand, like no origin. And that brings us to the idea of human origin reinforcement data. And so in the whole world of AI, you've got what's called reinforcement learning. And basically, the idea is if you give a computer, a way to output data, and you put these outputs in front of a bunch of humans, and they go, yes, yes, no, yes. Basically, you can use this as reinforcement to build a better system. And this is what we're doing, but we're scraping these yeses based off of our behaviors. And so, we're trying to say, oh, well, when you like and retweet and do this, like there's this weighted score that determines. No, that's all fucking bullshit because you're trying to make these horribly complex relationships and structure them into this like really thin data wrapper. And so, um, with this, I decided to flip the script. And so, what I want to do is I need to capture the structure of the data and like who is responsible for that data? What context does it occur in? Who's actually consenting here? And like, what is the structure of it? And this is actually really important because it gives us like a unit of data that we can actually track through the internet and we can break it up and divide it. And we can do all of these really cool things while keeping track of who gets credit for creating that data and who's responsible for it. Um, we need systems that are responsible. And by trying to move so quickly, we're trying to outrun responsibility by not paying attention to the downstream effects. ChatGPT is having users that engage with ChatGPT and then kill themselves because the AIs that they deployed were just self-reinforcing someone's internal state. And so to ChatGPT, they're a number. In Internet 2.0, they're a human, and you're going to be able to see how the human changes over time. And they'll be able to see how they change over time. And they'll actually get paid for the data that they create that gets used downstream in the economy. And this is the whole idea behind the Yes Pen. And the Yes Pen I do currently have available for pre-sale. If you check out my meta label for Idea Nexus Ventures, you can grab it there. And so basically, what Internet 2.0 is, it's a transporter from Star Trek, if you remember. So basically, in the transporter, you stand on a pad, and then you go, and there's this cool sound, and that was a terrible reenactment of it. But basically, you end up, um, you know, vaporizing yourself in one place, and then showing up in a completely different place, exactly the same. Now, when we think of the internet, when you put data in, it doesn't come out the other side the same. You put it into a website, and then it gets converted into some sort of probably JSON object, and then it goes to a server, and then it's broken up and stored. And so you can't get that same piece of input back out, really. Like it's just not designed for that. And this is the fundamental break in the early internet, Internet V1. And so, um, what we want to do is we want to get a full signal, right? So this entirely context wrapped thing. And then we want to remember that and like uh, hold it for accountability because then it's like that same signal can be um, rematerialized anywhere else in the system. And so what we do with this is then we can create conscious competition. So we get credit, accountability, and reproducibility. And these are the three core factors to markets that work because you need to make sure that the right people are getting credit. You've got to make sure that if you're getting a credit, you're also being accountable. Like that, there are two sides of the same coin. You can't get a bunch of credit without the accountability because that's how we get to where we are now. And most importantly, reproducibility. The market needs to be able to learn from what you're doing. This means we need to be more and more transparent as we move faster. And this is something that markets haven't quite figured out yet. They're still trying to hold out on these information asymmetries that are really, really inefficient in a rapidly evolving economic environment. And so, one of the things in Internet 2.0 is that it lets your identity stabilize. And this is something that I didn't quite realize from within it. But basically, with the internet, we have truly fragmented our identities, and we are different people in different places online and in person because of that. And so with Internet 2.0, the whole thing is actually all about creating a coherent identity that the internet can rely on. Because in the economy, you are most valuable when you are predictable, in the sense that you're able to like recreate the same things. And again, I guess this idea of reproducibility, right? Well, my predictions stabilize when my identity does. I never learned how to make accurate predictions about what I can do in what time because basically I had always managed to learn fast enough to not have to actually make accurate predictions. I could just teach myself what I wanted to know in the moment without actually having to predict how long something would take me. And it was kind of a game I played with myself because the rest of the world moves slower around me. What I realized is this was actually a sign that I wasn't in the right types of networks. I wasn't with people who were challenging me enough. And so I was having to challenge myself with these different games. And so I'm playing all sorts of games that I don't understand, and I'm just trying to like figure out how the fuck my brain works. And um, this is what I call a state of hyper competition, where basically you're playing all sorts of games. You can see some of them, but you don't actually know what the outcomes are because you don't know what games you're playing or how they overlap, and it gets really weird inside this state of hyper competition. Um, and so what we're going to do is we're actually going to create just an entirely new economic layer where we focus on alignment over optimization and meaning over scale. Because this is infrastructure, okay? We're not building a product here. We're actually building out the entire infrastructure for Internet 2.0. And this is something that I've had a hard time conveying to people. And so what I've decided to do is I was initially going to raise on like a kind of a startup level, a couple million pre-seed, try to get it to something. No, we're in this case, I realize I just need to build up the infrastructure, so I need to raise an ecosystem. My goal currently is to raise between 50 and 100 million because basically I want to make sure we have the protocol, I want to develop a core team, and I want to do public pilots. Now, the core team is actually going to be interesting because yes, I want to raise and like hire, but I actually think there's a different opportunity here to have people pay me to work for them. And this is kind of a cool idea. But what I want to do is I actually want to assemble a team of Avengers for next year. And what I want to do is I want to train people to be as fast as me and as good as me at building these conscious systems. And so I'm spending this month recruiting. I want 10 people to work with me for the year. And in doing so, they are going to learn how to be great. This has been my focus. Where does greatness come from? Greatness is an individual thing, internal, but it is contagious. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, you get other people to hold themselves to higher standards. And so, what I want to do is I want to create a group of basically the Navy SEALs of systems. And I want to create a team that can go in, quickly educate a network about what all the problems are that we're able to see, get started on a project that starts eliminating them on a small scale to prove their effectiveness, and then scales it out through the entire organization. And so these are going to be my MetaSPN athletes. And we're going to have a public performance of how we do this because I want it to be transparent, measurable, and fast. And so instead of trying to hire, I'm going to find people who have the money and want to work with me. And so I want 10 people to be just with me for the year. And so this is I'm basically setting it up as a fellowship for 25K to kind of cover all of the logistics and coaching and everything that I'll be doing there. Um, and they will be part of the team for a year. And then the other half of the team, 10 people, I want to rotate out quarterly. And so I want these to be people who are currently in high level positions in larger companies. And I want the companies to pay me 100 grand to basically stick them on my team. They're going to have a line into the corporate systems they're from, and we're going to have that direct line of communication. And so what we're going to do is we're going to track how quickly I can use this team to kind of measure, plan, attack, evaluate a given portion of a company and see how much better I can make it in terms of both qualitative and quantitative measurements. And so, as I'm getting ready to head out to SF to kind of kick off this fundraise, I'm also recruiting people from these types of companies who want to actually see how quickly we can go make a meaningful difference in the world beyond just money, because it's not really money that changes the world, it is people. Um, but we can be a lot better at using people to deploy money effectively and consciously. Um, and like I have lived this failure personally. Like, I've never been aligned with the economy. I've always been out of it. I've been, um, I went through college, but like college didn't do anything for me except kind of point me in the direction of what to learn. put me around a bunch of people that I wasn't very good at interacting with. So I spent a lot of time online. And it's just it's been so hard for me to actually like predict what the economy is doing. And I'm supposedly smart, and so this is supposed to be easy. I'm in a position in the economy where I shouldn't be able to be in, and yet here I sit. And it's because we've created an environment that just has no idea about the people living in it. It's got all of the data and knows nothing. And so Internet 1.0 is all about scale, growth, extraction. Internet 2.0 is integrity, agency, identity. So I'm offering the world a choice. Choose your substrate. Choose wisely. 2026 is going to run on different logic. We tried scale. We need coherence. Internet 2.0 puts human back into computation. So this is the fundraising deck. I have no idea if anyone is actually watching on any of this because I don't know where my comments or anything go. But anyway, that's fine. We won't worry about that for now. Okay. And so here we go. So when I talk about MetaSPN and conscious competition, the idea here is that it's a public scientific competition on the future of human systems. Okay. So I talked about the team that I want to build. And the thing we're going to focus on speed of insight, integrity of agency, coordination power, and measurable impact. So, how can we actually move quickly, stay agentic and human, coordinate effectively, and have an actual impact? So, Internet 1.0 is just structurally misaligned with reality. Systems optimized for scale, speed, engagement, and extraction, which made them misaligned with cognition, trust, identity, and economics. Now, because I'm setting this up as a scientific competition, I do have failure conditions here. So, if the current internet incentives reliably improve human coordination at scale, our thesis fails. I'm not that worried about that. Okay, so what are the observed failures of Internet 1.0? Identity fragmentation, agency distortion. Are you acting because you want to or because someone else wants you to? I don't know. Economic precarity. Um, I think if you're making it, you probably think the economy is great and you think everybody else is lazy if they're not working right. But if it's not working for you, you know exactly how fucked up it is and how broken everything is. And the problem is we've got two different systems. One works well, one doesn't. And if you're in one, you can't see the other. Um, Attention extraction. So everybody wants your attention because that's what we can measure. Because when you're on the system, you're making data, we can measure it. And that's why we need systems that create the data and capture them after the fact. And then trust collapse, right? Because we have a network that assumes trust and has none. And so we can actually have a test here to correlate network size with decision quality, network scale versus economic resilience, and then engagement metrics versus truth density. And I've got some data sets to start doing some of that with. And so talked about it a little bit earlier, but Internet 1.0 compresses human time into machine time. Decision-making velocity has exceeded human validation bandwidth. This gets into my concepts of network relativity. And my whole thesis on the idea of intelligence is that the intelligence we use to generate information is only as good as our ability to validate the information that we generate. Put another way, if you're using an AI system, it's only as useful as your ability to say, yes, this is good, or no, this isn't, because it's predicting at a rate faster than you, more completely than you, and it's up to you to be able to spot it if it's wrong. And that's one of the main issues here. All of the validation time is on you, not ChatGPT. Now, admittedly, they are doing work to try to shorten that time, and it's the problem is it's a hard problem to solve, which is why it hasn't been solved. So I don't want to like say that this is entirely pointing fingers, but a bunch of shit is wrong and it's going to not work unless we fix it. So we need to actually build systems that create space for humans to actually exist. And so the whole core claim here is that decision making has exceeded our ability to actually validate the decisions that we're making. We're just making all sorts of decisions because we don't have time to actually fucking think about anything. So we should be able to look at prediction error rate versus the interaction velocity. If you're moving faster, do you make more mistakes? And then emotional load versus throughput. Like when you're feeling overwhelmed, are you working as well? And then we should actually be able to also look at cognitive drift over time. And so, if human accuracy increases just by moving faster, we're going to be wrong. But I can tell you from pretty well lived experience that we'll be okay there too. Okay. So, human origin architecture. Um, so, the whole thing here is we have to capture as much as we can at the moment we need to. Authorship, intent, consent, provenance, accountability. This all has to be thought of from first principles as first class primitives. And this is the whole concept of human origin reinforcement data. Horde. Unleash the horde. So we want to be able to capture all of this at the beginning of the process because this allows us to transport agency. Agency has verifiable human intent, consent, and accountability, right? And means we can get intent. Like if we have the intent, we can get the feedback. And when we have intent to feedback loop, we work on the speed of that loop. And then here we get the mechanism level identity should increase reproducibility and reduce error propagation. It's basic. Like that's all um, pretty well understood. And so at this point, I'm looking at how small elite human systems can outperform scale systems. So when I'm talking about building a team of like, Navy SEALs of like system design, this is what I'm talking about. I want to say that I can create a team that is so incredibly productive, like it'll just blow people's minds. And that's what I want to create here with this team. And that's why it's so valuable for people to be part of it. I'm setting the price high to set the filter high because I want people who are in it. Um, and so for the leaderboard metrics, here's basically what I am looking to output. And so we have kind of, how are the humans doing? How are the systems doing? And then what impact are we having on the world? Um, these allow us to actually create conscious competitions where we are actually improving along very specific human-sized metrics. And so the whole thing here is I want it to be ranked because I firmly believe that I'm the best, but I'm not going to know that until I prove it. So I have to open up the competition. And so I want everybody to try to outperform me um, because I don't think you can. And so, I expect to fail a lot. And in fact, I've been publishing failures for 5 years because I think it's important to actually make sure that we publish the negative results because otherwise you end up with a whole bunch of information about all the things that worked and nothing about the stuff that didn't. And that's actually incredibly unhelpful for, again, reproducibility. You want to be able to go back and see what's already been done so you're not duplicating data. You're actually learning something as opposed to just doing the same things over and over. And so this allows us to get, deltas. It allows us to do comparison studies. It allows us to get so much more information out of this. Um, and the great thing here is that humans aren't test subject. They're not our guinea pigs. They're our co-researchers. And so what this means is that you actually let your research project speak to you. And that's actually pretty cool because you can do things like just ask them for more information if you need them. You can extend the scope or, but you have to give people the ability to understand what's happening. You have to allow them the ability to leave. And you have to allow them like, ownership and observability into like the stuff that you collect. And so we set a research infrastructure up so that we actually get all of these by default. And that means capital ends up being experiment fuel. This is something that has been awful because I haven't had experiment fuel. I've been running on fumes. So all of my experiments have basically been in my head and trying to set up very specific structures and how to figure out how to basically create different types of experiments that I can use to kind of showcase everything I've been thinking about. And so what I want to do here is that's why I'm pulling in all of this money to start, uh, yeah, building systems, building, public instrumentation so we can actually start measuring shit, publishing knowledge because, man, like I have been trying the whole peer-reviewed route, but like it's slow. Everything is so slow right now. We need to like start putting some gas on this fire here. And so, money buys learning speed. And so, again, it's an open challenge. I want competition. I want to see people learn how to beat me. Now, if we're right, if our hypothesis holds, everything changes, teams shrink, impact accelerates. So, um, everything goes faster and better. What if we're wrong? Well, then we publish it. We update our understanding. We change direction, speed over ideology. It's empirical work. Evidence determines direction, not our attachment to prior beliefs. If you look at my Twitter history, you will see that when I realize it's time to change direction, I change direction. I will do it suddenly, I will do it rapidly, um, and I will do it without apology. And this has hurt relationships in the past. But the reality is, I'm moving faster than people understand, and I follow what I see. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to make predictions, we're going to collect data, and then we're going to update based on that. So, it's a live scientific tournament. Audience is the peer review. Open data, shared metrics, transparent methods. Validity and improvement comes from replication. So, I invite researchers, builders, institutions. Test our claims, challenge our methods, outperform our results. Human coordination systems will be determined in the future by evidence, not authority. So here's kind of an overview of the leaderboard system design that I've been working on. Um, and so one of the things that I really want to figure out here is like how time works in these systems, right? I want to look at the delays, decay curves, compounding effect. Like I want to see things over different time periods, looking at time as the structure of network relativity as opposed to a coordination primitive. And so looking at it as, information generation and, validation before downstream use. And so that is the challenge part of Internet 2.0. Okay. And now I want to talk about time. And so specifically, I was just talking about network relativity. So Technology is fast, validation is slow, capital is impatient. And that's how we are at this existential crisis. So every system has a clock. Now, the problem is when clocks start to diverge, failures multiply, trust collapses, harm compounds. When you don't optimize for validation alongside speed, everything breaks. So let's look at peer review. Everything is slow. Imagine that. Papers traveled by mail. Validation required months of correspondence. Publication meant physical distribution. So submission to publication now exceeds 18 months. AI capabilities double in under 12. I wrote my first paper this year back in March, I want to say. I think I've written six or seven since then that I've at least tried to like give to people to look at. Um, I've tried submitting to some journals. On Archive, I needed some sort of, I don't know, somebody needed to approve me or something. I ended up publishing my conscious economics paper on Zenodo, but I have no idea how long it'll take. I finally got invited to the Wolfram community or Wolfram Institute community after sending them a little bit of my work like 6 months ago. Everything is moving so slowly, and I'm used to being in AI startup world, and it's so fast. And let me tell you, this has completely blown my mind because I'm stuck in between worlds. Like I'm in a world of academia that doesn't accept me because I don't fit their profile of moving slow and being anti-tech, um, anti-money, right? Um, but I'm more diligent and worried about the consequences than tech is. And so I sit in the middle with no resources from either, and I keep trying to figure out what to do. And so finally, I'm just like, let's figure out how we actually can fix this. And so this brings us into this other world, right, where investment diligence has no scientific backbone. People look and go, well, that's probably right. Like, we're looking at founders, we're looking at business models, and the whole thing is like nobody has any idea what these business models of the future are going to look like because the future is looking different and different every single day. And so you end up having investment follow hype, not science, because if you try to do science, you're outrun by the hype. Um, and so everything is built on narrative. And so I've been learning this, but I've actually been doing the science while I'm learning about the narrative. And so I want to make the narrative and the science flow in alignment. And so because we've got all of this weird speeds differences going around, we end up like, resume heuristics, soft validation, all sorts of like actual like shit that doesn't work, but that's where all the money is going. And so if we have this system, right? So we've got AI systems moving exponentially while validation is linear. Basically, this breaks. And actually, I just published a blog on this yesterday. If everybody built, or if somebody builds it, everybody dies. If you notice, that's the name of the book by Eliezer Yudkowsky. Um, and it's one that I'd actually been arguing against, and in fact said that I had proven it wrong, before it was published. But I realized that it's actually true as things stand, because basically it's an unbound system. And in this type of system, basically failure is inevitable. You end up with a very interesting Pareto distribution, basically from like 0 to 1, but nobody wins. You just have some winners more than others, versus the bounded system, which has a normal distribution, a nice bell curve, where everybody wins, and then a few people win a whole bunch. And if you look, we actually have some very interesting um, things there. But so the speed without verification gives us systemic risk. So we're not. like we're beyond the past of human speed governance, so we need to change our networks. It's infrastructural, and this is my whole point. Like we're not waiting on peer review, ethical boards, market feedback, legislative cycles. We're just moving as quickly as possible. So we're funding risk, not understanding. And the risk is not good risk because it optimizes growth, winner take all, narrative collapse. We need to flip that completely. So we need to create like a feedback loop because right now none exists between capital and research. And in fact, they're diametrically opposed and they really don't like each other. Look at how academia and tech view each other. And the whole reason is that basically one side is taking all of the wins and the other side is getting all of the losses. And um, it's really shitty on kind of the whole structure. And so we need this bridge here. And so what I'm looking at here is, okay, what if we adjust the network and the system that we have in place? What if we move research and peer review into the diligence process? And so, with the whole idea of the yes pen and this human origin reinforcement data, I have a diligence repo set up where I'm setting a peer review process that basically gets some of the money from the fundraise as like a validation fee. And so you can quite easily start to see how this turns into like crypto structures because it works very well with these types of systems once we have a well-defined system that works with humans. So we embed the research, we turn that into experiments with falsifiable predictions, and then we basically route capital into the validation pipelines that actually start working. And then we allow researchers to actually benefit from like taking place in this pre-deployment validation as opposed to just figuring out everything from the black box to the wreckage. And then we're immediately publishing failures by default because it's all helpful information for the system. It's all being used. We're not creating this combative information system where it's people against each other because of misaligned incentives. We're actually all aligned to have the best possible system. And so at this point, peer review becomes diligence. So we're not worrying about VC predicting the future. We're worried about VCs getting money and funding the future. You've got researchers who are, not observing things and trying to figure out things after the fact, but they're testing and, working on experiments about claims before capital actually commits. And then we have this pipeline that can, create this incredible flywheel of actually moving quickly and rewarding fast moving research. And so suddenly capital becomes a knowledge engine because it's creating validation studies, it's creating simulations, it's creating safety tests, it's creating replication studies. And so some of this money just funds this infrastructure itself because it's actually the very interesting thing here is that the cost of safety grows linearly while the cost of the cost of risk grows super linearly. And so if we actually have these systems that are structured to have safety built in over time, you get higher and higher margins of growth because you're able to um, capture risk into minimal risk systems. Um, and so the way I've been looking at this is we should never actually be experimenting on humans first. Now that we've got the ability to create, all sorts of AI models, we can actually, create human simulations, synthetic populations. Actually, if you check out Ask Rally, they've got a great user sim setup that I've been testing quite a bit with. Then, you can get sandbox testing with informed participants. And then you actually have to like let people red team you, right? Try to actually break your system. Because reality isn't your test suite. Like when you're impacting people, like fucking don't when simulation infrastructure exists. Because here's kind of the issue, right? Like Our validation speed is linear, our evolution speed is exponential, and shit's gonna break. So this model works at all scales. Um, Founder, T, market, institution, planet. Time alignments, scale invariant. Evolution rate, validation rate, close the gap. So past knowledge, future speed, present accountability. All got to be connected. They need to be structured and designed to make them economically inevitable. Speed and understanding are not mutually exclusive. Innovation and validation, not mutually exclusive. When we actually build systems that understand humans, understand time, and understand risks, we can actually build systems quickly that are human shaped, human centric, and human valuable. We need speed and understanding because the future demands both. Speed without knowledge is recklessness. Knowledge without speed is irrelevance. Only the synthesis is adequate to the moment. These are a civilization infrastructure. This is how we build powerful technologies. We need it as infrastructure. With them, capability and stability can scale together. It's not reform, it's a refactoring of modernity. And with that, I think I'm going to end today's live stream. I don't know if anyone actually joined in because I can't see that. And now I'm apparently, we'll flip back to that screen. And yeah, I'll have to see how all of that turned out. But if you have questions, please hit me on Twitter, hit me on YouTube, hit me Twitch, I don't know, somewhere. And yeah, we'll figure it out together because it's transparent, it's human, and it's here. Welcome to the future. Welcome to Internet 2.0.